Trauma is marked by uncertainty and unpredictability, creating a sense of helplessness and anxiety in all of us. In our world right now, just in this past week, we've been exposed to not just one, but two major traumas. It affects us as individuals. It affects all of our relationships. And there's two fundamental ways that psychologically, I've sort of, in the broad framework, seen how this affects us. It is that it exacerbates our symptoms and it exposes issues. So what do I mean by that? The first thing is that it exacerbates our symptoms. I've noticed even myself, especially over this past week, really sort of absorbing a lot of the stress that's in our world, absorbing it a lot in my work and finding myself needing outlets for that. If you are prone to anxiety, depression, addiction, we know those will all be exacerbated during this time, putting us all a little more on edge. We know that alcohol and marijuana sales are up since the beginning of the pandemic. And while we're not going to focus so much on the individual self-care here tonight, know that taking care of your body, your mind, your spirit is absolutely critical. And as you're doing that, don't underestimate the value of being of service. So if there's some way that you can also be of service, I know it's so hard feeling quarantined and kind of cooped up at home. Finding ways to be of service is also a way to deal with that. The second way is that it exposes our issues. Now, many couples who I've talked to have actually said that during this time, they've grown together. They've come together as a team. Amidst the struggles, amidst the challenges, they've come together as a team. Whereas others have experienced a lot of conflict or a lot of tension. Because really what's happening is all the things we had before we could do to sort of deal with it or perhaps avoid it are no longer working. You can't really stay at work late for most of you. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to your friend's house. You can't go to the local bar. All those things we were doing to help get away from the tension, we can't do. And without those built-in diversions, the tension can build. And trying to suppress that tension is like trying to suppress a beach ball underneath the surface of the water in the ocean. You know it's going to burst out somewhere. And so as couples, really that question I would pose out to you is do we want to come together or do we want to become more disconnected? Sadly, what we found is that in China, since they've reopened, there's been an increase in the number of filings for divorce. And so we don't want to see that trend here. And so we're going to want to do things to take action. We're going to want to think about it a little differently. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Those were the words echoed by Winston Churchill. And he was talking about the unlikely alliance between himself, American President Roosevelt, and Russian leader Joseph Stalin. That unlikely alliance of the three of them would come together, which ultimately led to the formation of the United Nations. And so out of crisis is opportunity. So let's not waste this opportunity. And so tonight, there's that opportunity I'm going to offer you is really threefold. I'm going to move right into talking about these different strategies. Don't want to spend too much time talking about the whys and exploring that. We want to get into some good strategies that you can bring into all of your relationships. And those three things are that COVID-19 relationship survival app, the olive branch exercise, and then looking at the 4 habits of all successful relationships. And from the outset, let me just state this. My focus here is simplicity. Simplicity. We know that when we're in crisis, when there is trauma, that's not the time we want to look to make long-term changes. We're in the present moment. Our work initially is to bring stability. bring stability, restore connection, restore peace, and then we can move forward. So these strategies tonight will be simple, although not easy, and significant things that you can do. And they're not meant to be the end all be all, like this is all you will ever need. There are, as I mentioned, this situation exposes issues that may already be there. And so if you're experiencing a lot of greater tension, then there may be some additional work that you might need. Yet all of three of these can be game changers when it comes to restoring connection, especially during this time, and know that all three of them will be part of any lasting change that you might hope to make. So I want to go into those three strategies and present those a bit, and then we'll talk, or at the end of the evening, we'll hopefully have a little time for some questions and a little more interaction. So this first one, the Relationship Survival App. We'll call it app because the three things are going to be A, P, and P. And the idea here is that we're going to be front-loading the system as much as possible to buffer against the effects of tension, trauma, stress that we're experiencing. At least 87% of us said we're experiencing during this time. It's sort of like taking your vitamins, drinking fluids, having the vitamin C when you're starting to feel under the weather. You got to pump it up a little more. You got to do these extras to take care of things. And in fact, as we talk about relationships, we know that the premier relationship researcher, John Gottman, he found that in a healthy relationship, we need to have a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interaction during times of tension. When things are going well, that number is going to be up even higher. But even during times of tension, we need to have a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. And so these behaviors I'm going to talk to you about are going to be good examples of that. Because when we talk about front-loading the system with these different qualities of the A, P, and P, they're all going to be behaviors. Change doesn't come by just thinking about it. Behaviors build habits. Habits build character. This is how we can build change. Now, if you hear some of these and you think to yourself, right now I'm just not feeling it. There's some tension going on. I've been doing a lot. I think my partner should be doing more. I'm just not sure I want to do this stuff. Then your brain is going to give you lots of reasons not to do it. And the thing I want to say to you is you're in the absolute right spot you should be in being here right now. Because you will probably need this more than anyone else if you're feeling that right now. Because it's giving you that opportunity to create that change. It's giving you the opportunity to be the change that you want to see. It's giving you the opportunity to build habits and build your own character. So let's talk about these. The first one, A, appreciation. Appreciate the little things. So those are the simple thank yous we might say. But then also I'm going to invite you to do this. I'm going to invite you to express a 3-sentence appreciation to the other person. A 3-sentence appreciation. Now, why am I saying that? So the first sentence is going to be, I appreciate this, the thing you might do all the time. I appreciate that you brought coffee for me in the morning. The next two are really sharing a little bit more about just how it impacts you. I appreciate that you bring coffee for me in the morning. It really shows me that you care, and I feel special and warm and helps me start my day. Right? 3 sentences, not too difficult, but just that get a little under the surface and express a nice appreciation. And so what I want to do right now is just want to pause and just take a moment, and I'm going to invite you to do that now. Now, those of you who are here together, I know a bunch of you are here together, you're going to turn and just do that with one another. Those of you who are here separately, I want you to get out your phone right now, and I want you to send a text to that person. And you're going to give them a nice surprise. Some of you I know are in just separate places watching on this Zoominar. But others of you are just here and your partner's not here. So I just want to invite you to pick up your phone, send them a text right now. So I'm going to pause and take a moment, and hopefully I'm going to see you all turn towards each other or getting your phone out and moving those thumbs. So those are looking great. I just want to invite maybe like a couple people just to say what that experience was like. What do you notice just by doing that 1 minute exercise? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump right in. Don't be bashful.
I was telling my husband I didn't know I'd need tissues for this. It was moving, right? I mean, it's like, for me to be able to say to him something that I appreciated about him, and also to hear something from him.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, in 1 minute, right? Just already it had that impact. That's great.
I wanted to just say, Dr. DiPaolo, I didn't expect that. It was so nice I found so much joy out of telling him what I appreciated about him, as much as I did about hearing what he appreciated about me, which was really nice. And it immediately created this, like, we kept kind of going on. And it was very nice. It was nice to you open it up and then all of a sudden it starts flowing more,
Yep. Great. Yes. The joy of giving appreciation, what that brings as well as receiving it, and just kind of get that energy flowing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'd still be talking if there was an exercise of unappreciation.
Our brains have a negativity bias, and we can do that.
Yeah.
So that's why we're putting some conscious things in to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. One more.
How are you, Doc? My name is Jay.
Hey, Jay.
And I wanted to say that, just hearing the words, just the full expression and, details of what she was saying to me and how she was appreciative just of me and, vice versa. It feels better, because most people will say, oh, thank you, babe. Thank you. Just appreciating here and there, but not really giving full details. And, it felt good,
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for the exercise.
Absolutely. And now I'm just imagining now, if I asked all of you on a scale of 0 to 10 how hard that was, I don't think your numbers would be too high, right? I mean, I was watching you. No one looked like you were really having a hard time doing that, right? So again, not trying to create rocket science, things that are difficult, but simple things that we can do that will make a difference. So if you like this one, that one, you're going to love the next one. And I just want to say, I will begin, and I do this with couples who are coming in and struggling, and I will do this at the beginning and end of every session. I'll do this at workshops I do. And in fact, what I might even invite you to do now is just set a little reminder on your phone. And just set that reminder to go off every day for the next 66 days. Let's just pick a number. And because we know it takes some time to build a good habit. Actually, one study I saw said 66 days is what it takes to build a good habit. So we're going to start with that. The second one, P, physical touch. Now, physical touch is going to be just the small gestures, but I'm going to invite something more here in a moment, because we know how much touch is very healing. We know how much it just impacts the nervous system, calming us, grounding us, and of course, helping us feel connected to our partner. And the invitation here is going to be to do a 1-minute hug, a 1-minute hug. And so in fact, what I want to do right now is, again, couples, I'm going to invite you to do a 1-minute hug. So either stand or be comfortable so you can do it. I have the timer. Don't worry about it. When you do this on your own, set a timer, because you never realize how long a minute is until you actually do this. For those of you who are here single, I'm going to invite you to kind of close your eyes and sort of in your mind's eye, just bring your partner into your awareness. Really bring them into your awareness and allow yourself to just imagine holding or being held by them. But for everyone else right now, let me invite you to do that. 1-minute hug. Go. You never knew how long a minute could be. Take a good deep breath there together and come on back. And let me just get maybe 2-3 comments what that felt like. What you noticed, what you experienced. Feel free to unmute yourself and jump right in.
I think
Okay.
hi. It was very grounding. It's very grounding, and you just feel connected, and it kind of just erases everything around you, and it just it's very grounding, and it's just it's connection, and brings everything together, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it recharges you emotionally.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Grounding you, connecting, recharging you, and sort of blocking everything else out.
Yeah.
Love
All
it.
of the noise is
All the noise.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. We need that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Alexi wanted a 59-minute massage after the 1-minute hug. And we realized we got to do this more often, is what we said. Like, we got to do this.
Yeah, I said we need to do. I need a 1-minute hug every day and also massage. Yeah, that's nice.
Be gentle. Be gentle with yourselves. I know we always want to do more. The 1-minute hug's a nice way to start. 1 minute appreciation, 1 minute hug. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. And so just, yeah, I'll encourage you to take that time at home to do that because it is so, so important. Let me go to that third P, which is a platinum behavior. Platinum behavior. Does anyone know what that is? Anyone know what the platinum rule is? Feel free to dive in if you do. Oh, no one knows the platinum rule. How about the golden rule? I bet you somebody can tell me the golden rule. Someone dive in, tell me the golden rule.
I actually think I know the platinum rule.
Go for it.
It's treating others how they want to be treated.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're all very familiar with the golden rule, right? The golden rule, which will say, treat others as we would like to be treated. The platinum rule is treating others as they would want to be treated. It's so important in relationship because we don't want to just start doing for our partner what we want. We want to do what they would appreciate. Any of you who are familiar with the 5 love languages, you will know all about this, right? Recognizing that we speak these different love languages, whether we like words of appreciation, quality time, physical touch, gifts, or acts of service. It's really connecting in with what our partner would want. So, I know you may come home, want to sit on the couch, but what she'd really appreciate is if you went over to the kitchen and started doing the dishes, right? There's your invitation to do the dishes. And now, as I say that, I'm not at all projecting what I'm expecting to experience when I go home tonight. Just putting it out there as an example. The idea here is think of something every day that you can just do as one of these platinum behaviors. Not that you're looking to get something in return, not as a quid pro quo, right? Just as a behavior you want to express and that you want to give. And be largesse. Don't sort of rest on principle and wait till your partner does something for you. Do it anyway. Again, it's an opportunity for you to build habits, build character. Do those things anyway. And so all 3 of these, again, are about front-loading the system, right? We're doing these positive things that we just noted. We experience grounding, we experience connection. It helps block things out and bring us together. And especially during this time when we can all experience the restlessness and the anxieties with everything going on in our world today. So that's the app. Now, in addition to the app, during these times, we also really need to offer one another grace, grace and compassion. And so when there is some tension, when there is some conflict or something that occurred, there's this very nice brief exercise called the olive branch exercise. And I kind of borrowed this from a colleague of mine, Dwayne Harvey. He calls it the repair dialogue. And what this is, I like calling it the olive branch because what is an olive branch? An olive branch is a sign of peace, right? It's something we offer vulnerably, right, as a sign of peace. There's no demand, there's no anything. I'm just coming to you open with this. And right on your handout, I'm just going to kind of go through what it looks like and then just describe it a little bit. So first it'll say, after some tension or some conflict, you might need individually a little time to ground, right? A little time to calm. So it's okay, take that time, do what you need, do a little exercise, take a run, take some time in prayer, take some time to write, whatever you need to do, just to have some time to help ground you a little bit. And then just come back and say, I'd like to offer you an olive branch. Is now a good time? And it's really about 4 sentences here. The first 2 are going to be about what happened, right? So my contribution to the conflict was, and what I did to make it worse was. Now, why do we have both of those things there as 2 separate ones? Well, I think most of us, myself included, would say, if I go and I apologize for something that I did, I'll probably say part of it. But if I was really honest, there's probably more than that. So my contribution was, and then yeah, and I then probably made it worse by. So I'm owning that, being honest about that. And then 3 and 4. So what I could have done differently is, and then what I will do differently next time is, it's just putting it out there. And then just thank you for listening to that. And then hopefully you would switch roles and the other person would be willing to do the same with you. Now you'll notice these are very simple. And again, we're focused on behavior. This isn't the time when we're exploring the whys and the details and all of what happened. And quite honestly, because what happens there too often is we start saying, you know, my contribution was, and I did this because you, and then we start going into things that take the focus off us and putting the sort of blame onto the other. So this initial piece is just about being able to put that olive branch out there. Acknowledge your own part in it. Acknowledge your part in that. And the listener, how you receive these is so incredibly important. Now, in the app with those positive things, it was probably a little easier to receive these things we liked. Here, it's going to be just as critical. If my partner comes to me acknowledging their part in something, the last thing I want to do is say, well, about time you said something, about time you apologized. The last thing I want to do is react in a way that discourages them from ever wanting to do that again. So even though what I hear may be not everything I thought they did wrong, or gosh, that sounds like half of what it was, or even a quarter of what it was. This is the olive branch. It's just the end of conflict and the beginning of peace that we're inviting here. Again, not the whole package, but it's the beginning. It's the entree forward. So when you're listening, thank the other person for their willingness to do that. Genuinely thank them, because your ability to receive that is going to make the difference. It'll also hopefully help that then you can then feel comfortable to share your part in it as well. Now, sometimes I just want to put out there that sometimes when I put this out there, someone might say back like a question like, well, wait, it sounds like, so I'm supposed to do my part and then just move on no matter what they do? Is that what you're saying? And I want to be clear that no, that's not what I'm saying. This is about being able to own your part and still have healthy boundaries, right? If we aren't maintaining healthy boundaries, then we're being passive, then we're being enabling and caretaking. What we're talking about here is being able to own our own part, but also having the boundaries. The work of forgiveness is something I can do on my own, right? I can forgive you for something, no matter how you act or don't act. I can forgive someone who hurt me in the past, alive or dead. That's my own work. Reconciliation takes two, right? This is where the boundary piece comes in. If you're in a situation where one person is really willing to kind of own and start taking their part, owning their part in it, and the other person's not, that's where it's okay to have your boundary. Again, you want to still be the person that you want to be. If they're not doing it, doesn't mean it gives you permission to start being cruel or mean or using put downs or any of the negativity, right? Your invitation is always to focus on you, because that's the only person you can change. And when you do that, you create the likelihood, the better chance for change to happen in your relationship. Now, the last piece I want to say about that is we want to be careful before we conclude that our partner is not willing. And that's going to lead us into strategy number 3. Buddhist leader Thich Nhat Hanh says, behind all conflict is a lack of understanding. Behind all conflict is a lack of understanding. The single greatest source of conflict in our relationships with each other or on larger scales in our world, as we see today, is this lack of understanding. And then we make it worse by thinking we understand when we actually don't. The true measure of understanding is if the other person feels understood by you. So it's not about what you think, I understand you. It's about, do they feel, yes, I feel understood by you. We run into trouble here because we all create stories in our own head. We don't think they're stories. To us, they're gospel truth. But they're actually the stories we create in our own head when there is tension. And that's why we need patience. Because patience is waiting for reality to catch up with what we've already imagined in our own head. And patience enables one of the greatest gifts we can bring to a relationship, which is the gift of perspective taking. Perspective taking. The writer F. Scott Fitzgerald said the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Basically, can I hold two separate ideas and still function? Can I hold my idea, my perspective, and yours? Can I hold them both equally? Doesn't mean I have to agree with yours. I can have a different perspective, but it doesn't mean I have to put yours down. I validate yours. I can honor yours. I can respect your perspective. That is very challenging. And again, it is probably where we run into the most trouble in our relationships, when we lose that ability to do that. And then make it worse by thinking that we didn't lose the ability, right? We think, I know what you're thinking, right? I know why you didn't come in and do something nice for me this morning, right? I know why. I've had this story created. It's really my own story that I've created. And so here's 4 habits that can help us to do that. And these habits come from I saw these first on a TED Talk by these researchers in the UK, Dr. Andrea and Jonathan Taylor Cummings. And through their research, they found these 4 core strategies, or excuse me, 4 habits that were present in all successful relationships. Right? Number 1, be curious, not critical. We're all wonderful at being critical, right? I think what Binky just said, right? We can think of a lot of the ways we unappreciate each other, right? It's very easy for our mind to go there. It has a negativity bias, right? It's sort of built in. And that's built in, from an evolutionary perspective to protect us, because it's much more important for our brain to be aware of something that's wrong or bad or dangerous than it is to be acutely aware of something safe, because the danger is a threat and I need to make sure I'm safe. And again, when we're experiencing a time in our world where these traumas are going on around us, these crises are around us, it's going to activate that fight or flight system. And when we're in that fight or flight system, we're going to be more critical. And we're going to be more crushing, which is that second habit, which says be careful, not crushing. Right? The brain will hijack us in those moments. The fight, flight, or freeze reaction can cause more harm in our relationships. We're probably doing it for self-protection. We're probably doing it thinking we're trying to preserve the relationship. But in the end, it ends up actually causing more harm than help. And so we're going to need to take that time to step back. The third habit they mentioned is ask, don't assume. Again, be courageous here to be curious and ask the other person versus just project your story onto the scene. So when they made a snarky remark towards you, when they were short and cut you off, might be easy to react to that. Wait a minute, why'd they do that? They're being mean, they're being a jerk, they did that because they don't care. Right? Those stories that our brain will create. Let's be curious to maybe what's going on for them. Good chance it might not even be about you. Or if it is something you did, it's just triggering something even more in them. So this is where I really want to ask and not assume. And important here, how I ask. Ask with curiosity, not ask like it's an interrogation. So you're not a lawyer cross-examining the witness here, where you've already got the answer in your head and you're asking them the question, and the only right answer is the one that matches your answer. You have to really put your own story in the back, and again, with curiosity, see if you can invite that question to come out and be open to hearing them. And then that last habit they found was to connect before you correct. So this goes back to the first strategy I talked about tonight with the app. Connect first before we start going into a discussion around something. It's so important to experience connection. When there is an issue going on, we might feel like we need to fix the problem, solve it, slow down. The first thing we need to do is step back and ground, connect. And then we can work towards, again, a common understanding of what's going on, those two different perspectives. If we can get there, then that opens the door for the problem solving. So those are habits which, again, on the surface might sound simple, but which I know are going to be challenging, right? They're going to be challenging and very difficult for all of us in trying to do that. The work I do with couples, who I know many of you probably have experienced, is called Imago. And in Imago relationship therapy, it's really, in many ways, incorporates everything we've talked about tonight. And it creates that opportunity for couples to dialogue in a safe space, because it really gives a structure. And structure creates safety, where we will listen, we will mirror, we will validate, and we will empathize with the other, knowing that the other will be offering that to us as well. Just wanted to mention that. I don't want to go too much into Imago. That's maybe for another evening. But I just wanted to put that out there to know that there is more we can do around building in those communication tools when we're struggling to implement some of these things we're talking about here. So let me pause and just see if there's any, pause at this point, see if there's some comments or questions around these, especially these last two that I've been talking about, the olive branch or these habits, where it can be a little more challenging than some of those things we did on the front load the system earlier on.
I wanted to ask what number 2 was, because I guess I didn't get number 2. Sorry.
The number 2, the second habit, or the second of the
Sorry, the second habit.
Oh, the second habit was be careful, not crushing.
Okay, so, okay, be curious, not critical. I thought it was part of the first point. Thank you.
Yeah, curious, not critical, careful, not crushing, ask, don't assume, ask, don't interrogate, connect before you correct was the fourth one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
So it's like for number 2, be aware of your fight or flight. I think sometimes
Yeah.
it can be really hard though to control, like you just go there sometimes.
Yeah.
And then like, and they all kind of all tie in where it's like, how do you have that like connect before you correct when you're already upset? I guess like, how do you kind of come down a little bit to have a conversation?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Once our brain kicks in and it sent us into that fight or flight, honestly, these are the best thing to do at that point is to do one of these. Let's take a time out, right? Let's time out. And then we need to do something individually to ground ourselves. And when we do that, know that your brain, your body is going to need a minimum of 20 minutes to be able to do that. We might think in 5 minutes, okay, I'm ready now. Right? But even the way I said that probably said, oh, wait, no, you're not ready yet. Right? You're not ready yet. So we need to do that. And so when we talk about doing that, it's important, I think, for couples to kind of proactively say, you know what, we're going to use a timeout. And we can even put in a cue word. So many times with a couple, what I'll invite is come up with some innocuous cue word. Avocado, right? There's an innocuous one. somewhere that when it's said, it just means that, okay, we're taking a half hour and then we're going to come back and honor that. Now that might be tough too, tough enough, because one person might want to be, okay, I need this time. And the other one, because their reactivity in the brain is going to say, no, 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 no. We need to kind of talk about this now. So the challenge there for that person is to be willing to do that, knowing that in a half hour, whoever called avocado is going to come back. Does that make sense? I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. Yeah. Was there a thought or question? Was that helpful in terms of your question?
I think, Dr. Bilal, in a bigger perspective, is I think we all know that turning on the TV and reading newspapers online and seeing what goes on, Alexi and I decided, I think, to just like turn the TV off last night.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the time out of doing that, how you kind of reset and things can ground you a lot easier if you're just not exposed to a lot of the negative press that you're bombarded with like every minute of the day, in the radio and the TV and online and stuff. So on the macro level, the timeout is a really useful tool to have, I think.
During this time when our nervous systems are already activated so much by everything, the media knows that, and they know how to take advantage of that. Even when you first turn it on, you hear them talk about something, it's always going to be breaking news or something that's meant to just capture your attention. And it will do that in a way that hooks us in. And to your point, and many folks have been saying since the beginning of the pandemic, get the information you need and then turn it off, because of that impact that you're talking about. It's just sort of loading our systems with more of that anxiety, that when it's happening again, because our brain has that negativity bias and there's something out there that's unpredictable, it's like wanting to find some predictability or wanting to find some certainty to it, right? And as we all know, you could watch the news, for the next 24 hours, you're not going to walk away feeling more certain or that things are more predictable, right? Your brain is wanting something, that it could take, but it's not going to happen. So yes, get what you need, then take the break with it.
Sorry, I actually had a follow-up about
Yes.
the last. So how do you said like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. How do you know the time amount? Is it like until the other person's ready to talk, or do you have agreed upon time?
It's going to be different for every individual. So you will want to know for each of you, what is it that you need? So a lot of times, like I might know that, what I usually need is an hour. Now it can't be, I need, a week and a half, right? It can't be like, I just would rather not talk about it. It's let's take the time to do what we need to do. And again, it could be different. Like maybe it was a small one and I just need a half hour, or maybe I really got, activated where I need, an hour and a half. So there's not a set in stone. What I would say is this: if you have this general idea, let's say you kind of know that, okay, probably let's try ballpark. Let's just put out 45 minutes. Let's try that. Well, in 45 minutes, it's okay to come back and say, you know what, avocado, I'm still not there yet. And then take another 45. So again, you don't want to do that indefinitely, but it's okay, because again, what I will tell couples all the time is that it is so much better that you can come back and talk about 10% of what happened and feel good about it, then try and get through at least half of it and walk away feeling worse. Again, it sort of goes back to that olive branch exercise. Better to kind of start and like, I've put something out there, and even if you're feeling like it's not the whole pack, everything you should be apologizing for, we're starting there and we're going to build on that. So, is that helpful?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Other thoughts or questions? So you might invite, just as a practice, that olive branch exercise. Just think about something that, any last experience, any last tension that was there, that you felt, and maybe whether your partner felt it or not. But just try it with them. Just try it with them afterwards tonight, after we go tonight. And think of it just as, again, it's a good way to practice, with those things. And a good way to start building in some of the good habits that we're talking about here tonight.
Doctor, question, do you suggest any like, like kind of like, not training, but like where it says, to connect before correcting, like are there any like workshops that we could do at home, like some stuff that we could, try not to correct? Because I notice that sometimes that, like I'm so focused on detail that I'll just ask her something, and if she doesn't know like correctly, I'm like, oh, but why didn't you know that? And sometimes I get a little critical, and I should be a little more understanding and opening. But I just wanted to know if there was any like workshops to just, I guess, calm myself and just do it directly. I don't know.
Got it. That's a great question, because and I appreciate that you're saying, okay, let me look at me and say, what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do here? I mean, in terms of a couple workshop, I'm doing one at the end of the month, which will be on Zoom, called Start Right, Stay Connected, which I think some of you have probably done in marriage preparation. But it's a great workshop for couples to really build the foundational tools to be able to do some of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
How I can approach and how I can connect. Individually, I don't know if I know a specific workshop per se. Yeah, I mean, nothing's really coming to mind for me right now in terms of a specific workshop on that. It's probably, I'm hearing maybe exploring some of that, what's that stuff about for me?
Yeah.
Activates me.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is that like the other day we were having like a political debate, and then, there was, like she's really, really smart, and she's the brains of the relationship, but like, like when certain things come up, I'm like, oh babe, do you know about this? And she'll say, oh, I'm not very familiar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how don't you not know? And I just, sometimes I feel like maybe she should know, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I might be a little critical at times, little things like that.
Right. No, it's, again, good to be aware that criticism does come more from me than it comes about her not knowing this particular thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you've already told me and you've told her, I hope too, that she's the brains of the relationship. That was nice.
She is.
I hope you're feeling that.
I think Charles had something to say. Sorry.
Hi, doctor. I have a question about what to do if you reach impasse. So let's say you feel like you understand where your partner's coming from. You followed these steps, but the behavior that you want to change, there's an impasse there.
Okay.
What do you do when you reach that point?
So first thing is, I would always want to make sure that my partner feels understood in all of this. So one thing I understand, I want to make sure like she feels understood by me. Then the other thing is, I will say, we want to sort of, I don't know if when you're saying a behavior I want to change. So I want to let go of that, I'm going to change my partner. Right? So I want to let go of the idea, I'm going to fix my partner, I'm going to change my partner, I want to do something for them to change. Any invitation towards that is going to go a little different route. Meaning that if there is something that I am frustrated with my partner, my invitation is going to be, okay, as I'm exploring this, okay, what's underneath that frustration for me? So behind every frustration is going to be some unmet need. And usually when I'm hitting on that, I'm probably hitting on something, if you will, the softer feeling that's underneath the harder feeling of my frustration. And that's typically going to hit on some older hurt, some older wound for me, and where the need would come from. And if I'm able to kind of connect with that, that's where I'm inviting a partner to do something, because it's helpful for me. Not that you have a flaw and I'm trying to change you. I don't like when you do this. I'm connecting it back to me. Now that's a little more complex of a process, if you will. But the simple way of probably putting it is recognizing that my frustration is going to be more about me, and I got to explore that before I'm trying to change my partner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a better way to phrase it is, if there's a topic which you know is contentious,
Yeah.
both parties, and an impasse is reached. So both parties have differing needs and wants, and you feel like you've gone through the steps, but the opposing needs and wants still haven't changed, if that makes more sense.
Say that a little bit more again, that if the
Where?
So if there's a point of contention in your relationship, each party, either of us, we have a point of view on that subject which is immovable a little bit. So you understand where the other person's coming from, but there's an impasse that's been reached.
Got it. And so like it's one of those challenge of agree to disagree type things? Or?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time explaining it further. So
is there like an example?
Thinking. So I'm half Jewish and half Christian, and she's Jewish, right?
No, it's fine.
So if I want a Christmas tree in my house when I have kids, and it's not important, and it's important for her to not have that. So does someone just have to move, or do both people move a little? What do you reach? So I understand where she's coming from. She understands where I'm coming from. But it's still, an impasse has still been reached. Right.
No, that's a great question. Because there are some things like that. It's like, okay, we can't have half a tree, right? We can't, it's going to be one way or the other with some of these issues. And it is one where if I feel like you understand me, if you can both say like, I really feel like you get me, then we are going to have to kind of go through and have some give and take on that one in order to decide what we want to do. And maybe I want to really acknowledge the other person who is willing to bend a little bit. Or, in that example, do we think of ways that other options that could be there other than just like having the big tree in our living room or having nothing? Is there something smaller we do? Is there something else we can do? Again, if we're at that place where we kind of understand it and I want to be of service to you, right? Like hopefully I'd want to support your faith beliefs while at the same time knowing that mine are going to be there as well. So that would be one of those tough ones that we have to really then go through and negotiate and know that. The other thing I'll say too is that going back to John Gottman, he said that 2/3 of problems in a good marriage are unresolvable. 2/3 of problems in a good marriage are unresolvable. Now, what he meant by that was, in an issue like that, where it's like, it doesn't mean I'm going to change my view and we're going to just resolve this, like we're going to agree and be on the same page. It's going to be, we're on different pages, but here's how we're going to work through it. We can feel okay with that. Is that helpful a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Any other last ones? Have time for maybe one more if there's anyone else. So what I'd like you to do as we're winding up, a couple things. First, I want to invite you to turn and share with your partner one thing you appreciate about being with him or her here this evening. And again, those of you who are separate, pull out your phone, send a text. I just give you 1 minute to do that. Then we'll come back and we'll close. All right, those look great. Those look great. Good to see all of those smiles and embraces, and can feel the appreciations going back and forth there. So I want to again thank all of you for being here this evening. I'm grateful to be able to be of service to you by offering this. And one of the opportunities that I think this pandemic has created is new opportunities with using Zoom to be able to reach out and connect with folks like this. And so again, thank you so much for being here this evening. And know that I'm a resource for you. So feel free to follow up with me if you have any questions, concerns, things you want to explore a little more fully. And anything that I can do for you, please feel free to reach out. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm actually doing a workshop at the end of June, the last Saturday in June, which is called Start Right, Stay Connected, which is all about building foundational tools into your relationship. And so let me close with a little prayer for you. And then I'm going to put up just another little 2-question poll that you can do before you head out, just to get some feedback for you and just how this was, and if you might be interested in doing something like this again. Before we do that, my thought for you. May you experience a divine grace and peace in your relationships amidst the pain that is present in our world today. And to attain this, do your utmost yourselves in service of your relationship, adding goodness to the faith that you have, and to your goodness, understanding, to your understanding, self-control, to your self-control, patience, to your patience, true devotion, to your devotion, kindness, and to this kindness, love. Amen. Thank you again for being here with me this evening. I'm going to pop up one other poll for some feedback, and feel free to do that if you would for me. That would be great before you head out. Thank you for all the comments folks are putting in the chat as well. This will be the same place you got the handout on my website. The video will be up there as well. So anyone who wasn't able to make it, I know a few people emailed me unable to make it as well. So again, thank you so much for being here this evening. And once you've done the poll, wish you well and have a great evening. Thanks.